You'll never
You'll never
understand this.
understand
You
this.
don't
You
belong
don't
here.
belong here.
She didn't know about the camera. The tiny device sewn into the lining of his SpongeBob backpack by parents who'd run out of options, who'd complained to the school for months, who'd been told their son was just sensitive and making things up. The camera captured everything, and what it revealed was so much worse than anyone imagined. This is a story of how one hidden camera exposed systematic abuse, ended a teacher's career, changed school policy across an entire state, and saved a child who was running out of reasons to hope. This is the day justice finally came for 7-year-old Cameron Mitchell. Let me take you back 6 months before that video. Back to when Cameron Mitchell was excited about second grade. Back to when his parents, Marcus and Lisa Mitchell, thought their bright, happy son was going to have a wonderful year. Cameron was 7 years old. He loved dinosaurs and building blocks. He read at a 4th grade level. He was kind to other kids, respectful to adults, eager to learn. He was a good kid, a really good kid. His teacher was Mrs. Patricia Sullivan, a white woman in her late 50s with 32 years of teaching experience. Awards on her wall, glowing recommendations, parent testimonials praising her traditional values and high standards. On the surface, she was a perfect teacher. On the surface, the first sign something was wrong came 3 weeks into the school year. Cameron, who'd always loved school, started crying every morning when it was time to leave. "I don't want to go," he'd sob, clinging to his mother. "Please, Mama, please don't make me go." "Baby, what's wrong?" Lisa knelt down, wiping his tears. Did something happen at school? Cameron wouldn't answer, just cried harder. Marcus tried. "Cam, buddy, talk to us. Is someone being mean to you? Are kids bullying you?" "No," Cameron whispered, but his eyes said otherwise. They emailed Mrs. Sullivan, asked if everything was okay, if Cameron was having problems in class. Her response was professional and dismissive. Cameron is adjusting to the increased academic rigor of second grade. Some children take longer than others. I wouldn't be concerned. He just needs to apply himself more. So they encouraged Cameron to work harder, to be brave, to give school a chance. The crying continued. Then came the nightmares. Cameron waking up at 2 a.m. screaming, begging not to go back, saying he was not good enough and doesn't try hard enough and nobody likes me. "Who told you that?" Lisa demanded, her heart breaking. "Baby, who said you weren't good enough?" "I just am," Cameron whispered. "Mrs. Sullivan says so. She says I don't try hard enough, that I'm too slow, that I hold everyone back." Marcus felt his blood pressure spike. "She said that? To you?" "She says it to all of us. The kids in the back row." Cameron's voice was so small. "We're the ones who can't keep up. That's where she puts us, so we don't bother the advanced students." Lisa and Marcus exchanged horrified looks. The next day, they requested a meeting with Mrs. Sullivan. The meeting was a masterclass in gaslighting. Mrs. Sullivan sat across from them in her classroom, her expression one of patient condescension. "I understand your concerns about Cameron's experience in my class. He says you tell him he can't keep up," Marcus said bluntly, "that you seat certain kids in the back because they are not performing well." Mrs. Sullivan's laugh was light and dismissive. "Mr. and Mrs. Mitchell, children often misunderstand adult conversations. I use differentiated instruction, which means I group student by ability level so I can provide targeted support. Cameron is in a group that needs additional help with basic concepts. I've never said anything inappropriate to any child." "He comes home crying every day," Lisa said, her voice tight. "He has nightmares. He thinks he's a failure. This isn't normal." Some children are more sensitive than others. Cameron seems to take constructive feedback very personally. Mrs. Sullivan's tone suggested this was Cameron's fault, not hers. Perhaps he'd benefit from seeing the school counselor to work on his resilience. Maybe he'd benefit from a teacher who doesn't make him feel worthless. Marcus snapped. Mrs. Sullivan's expression hardened. "Mr. Mitchell, I've been teaching for over 30 years. I've educated hundreds of children successfully. If Cameron is struggling emotionally, I suggest you look at what might be happening at home rather than blaming his teacher." The implication was clear. They were the problem. Bad parents. Too defensive. raising a child who couldn't handle honest feedback. Lisa felt tears of frustration burning. We want him moved to another class. That's not possible mid-year. All classes are full. Mrs. Sullivan stood, signaling the meeting was over. I suggest you support Cameron in developing a better attitude toward constructive criticism that will serve him better than accommodating his sensitivity. They left that meeting defeated, angry, but powerless. Things got worse. Cameron stopped eating lunch, would come home with his lunchbox untouched. Why aren't you eating? Lisa asked. Mrs. Sullivan says I take too long, that I waste instructional time, so she doesn't let me finish. Cameron's voice was flat. Dead. She says I can eat at home if I'm hungry. Marcus immediately called the principal. Principal Richard Morrison listened politely, made sympathetic noises, then delivered the same message. Mrs. Sullivan is a veteran teacher with an exemplary record. I'm sure there's been a misunderstanding. Children sometimes exaggerate when they are struggling academically. Perhaps Cameron needs additional tutoring? I can recommend some services. Our son doesn't need tutoring. He needs to not be mistreated by his teacher. That's a very serious accusation, Mr. Mitchell. Without evidence, I can't take action based on a 7-year-old's interpretation of classroom management. Without evidence. That phrase haunted Marcus. Without evidence, Cameron was trapped. The final straw came when Cameron stopped talking entirely. For 3 days straight, he came home from school and went straight to his room. Wouldn't speak. Wouldn't play. Wouldn't do anything except lie in bed staring at the wall. Lisa found him like that on the 3rd day, tears silently streaming down his face. Cameron, baby, please tell me what happened. He wouldn't look at her. I'm not smart enough to be in 2nd grade. Mrs. Sullivan said so. In front of everyone. She said maybe I should go back to 1st grade where I belong. That I'm not ready for this level. Lisa felt something break inside her. Her sweet, brilliant boy, who'd been reading chapter books since kindergarten, believed he was incapable because a grown woman with authority had told him so. Repeatedly, systematically, cruelly. That night, she and Marcus made a decision. We need proof, Marcus said quietly. The school won't believe us. Won't believe Cameron. We need to show them what's really happening in that classroom. Lisa pulled up her laptop, searched for hidden cameras, found one small enough to fit in a backpack lining, ordered it overnight shipping. Is this legal? She asked. In a one-party consent state. Yes, Cameron is a party. We're his parents. We have a right to protect our child when the system won't. Marcus's jaw was set, and once we have evidence, they won't be able to ignore this anymore. The camera arrived 2 days later. Tiny, high quality, motion activated with a 12-hour battery. Lisa sewed it into the lining of Cameron's SpongeBob backpack, positioning it so the lens faced outward when the backpack was on his desk. Baby, she said gently, we're going to figure out what's happening at school, okay? So we can help you. You just go to class like normal. Put your backpack on your desk like you always do. We'll take care of the rest. Cameron nodded. He looked so small, so defeated. Marcus knelt down. Cam, I need you to know something. You are brilliant and kind and amazing. Whatever Mrs. Sullivan says, it's not true. We're going to prove it. Okay, Daddy. But Cameron's eyes were empty. He'd stopped believing in himself, stopped believing that anyone could help him. That broke Marcus's heart more than anything. The first day of footage was damning. Lisa and Marcus sat on their couch that evening, watching the video on Marcus's laptop. What they saw made Lisa physically sick. 9:15 a.m. Cameron raises his hand to ask a question. Mrs. Sullivan ignores him. Other students' hands go up. She calls on all of them. Cameron's hand stays up for 7 minutes. She never acknowledges him. 9:47 a.m. Cameron is struggling with a math problem. Mrs. Sullivan walks over, looks at his work, and says loudly enough for the class to hear, "This is all wrong. Why can't you understand simple addition? Are you even paying attention?" 10:23 a.m. Cameron asked to use a bathroom. Mrs. Sullivan says, "You should have gone during break." Hold it. Maybe next time you'll plan better. 11:05 a.m. Lunchtime. Cameron opens his lunchbox. Starts eating. 2 minutes later, Mrs. Sullivan. Cameron, we're moving on. Put that away. You're wasting learning time. Cameron puts his food away, still hungry. 1:30 p.m. Reading time. Mrs. Sullivan calls on students to read aloud. Skips Cameron entirely. When Cameron raises his hand to volunteer, she says, I need students who can read fluently. Maybe next time. 2:15 p.m. End of day. Mrs. Sullivan hands back graded worksheets. Gives them to every student except Cameron. When Cameron asks about his, she says, I haven't graded yours yet. Your handwriting is so messy I can barely read it. And through it all of it, there's Cameron. Small, quiet, trying so hard, and being systematically crushed. Lisa was crying. Marcus was shaking with rage. We're taking this to the principal tomorrow, Marcus said. This ends now. But the second day of footage was worse. So much worse. 9:47 a.m., the moment from the opening. Cameron is crying quietly at his desk. Mrs. Sullivan walks past, comes back, leans down and whispers directly in his ear, You'll never understand this. You don't belong here. Then she straightens up and walks away. Leaves a 7-year-old boy sobbing alone in the back of her classroom. 11:30 a.m. A student, a white boy named Tyler, knocks Cameron's pencil box off his desk. Pencils scatter everywhere. Tyler laughs. Mrs. Sullivan sees it happen and says nothing. Cameron bends down to pick up his pencils. Mrs. Sullivan. Cameron, why are you out of your seat? Get back to work. 1 p.m. Cameron is working on an assignment, writing carefully, concentrating hard. Mrs. Sullivan walks by, looks at his work, and without warning, tears the paper in half. This isn't acceptable. Start over. And this time, actually try instead of wasting time. Cameron doesn't cry. He's past crying now. He just stares at the torn paper with blank eyes. 2:45 p.m. Dismissal. Mrs. Sullivan tells the class, everyone did well today, except Cameron. Cameron needs to work harder. Say goodbye to Cameron, everyone. Maybe tomorrow he'll decide to participate. 30 students, in unison, by Cameron. It was ritualized humiliation, daily psychological torture of a 7-year-old child. Marcus stopped the video, looked at his wife. I'm going to destroy her. No, Lisa said, her voice hard as steel. We're going to destroy her. Legally, completely, publicly, so she can never do this to another child again. The next morning, Marcus and Lisa walked into Principal Morrison's office without an appointment. Mr. and Mrs. Mitchell, I don't have time for another meeting about Cameron's sensitivity. Marcus set his laptop on the principal's desk and opened it. Watch. I really don't think. Watch. The authority in Marcus's voice made Morrison shut his mouth. He looked at the screen. Lisa pressed play. For 12 minutes, Principal Morrison watched. His expression went from annoyed to uncomfortable to horrified. The "you'll never understand this" moment made him flinch. The torn paper made him close his eyes. The ritualized goodbye made him put his hand over his mouth. When the video ended, the office was silent. Where did you get this? Morrison's voice was barely a whisper. Hidden camera in Cameron's backpack. 2 full days of footage. There's more. Lots more. Marcus leaned forward. Now tell me again how my son is too sensitive, and this is a misunderstanding. Morrison looked sick. I had no idea. Mrs. Sullivan has been here for over 30 years. Her evaluations are always. I don't care about her evaluations, Lisa interrupted. I care about my 7-year-old son who won't eat, won't sleep, and thinks is incapable because a trusted adult has been psychologically torturing him for 8 months. I'll need to investigate. Speak with Mrs. Sullivan. Review school policy on. No. Marcus's voice was hard. You'll remove her from the classroom immediately. Today. Right now. You will place Cameron in a different class. And you'll be expecting a call from our attorney. Morrison's head snapped up. Attorney? Did you think we were just going to let this go? Our child has been abused for 8 months while you dismissed our concerns and protected his abuser. We have documented evidence. and we're going public. Please, Morrison said, and for the first time he looked genuinely frightened. Please don't go to the media. Let me handle this internally. I'll suspend Mrs. Sullivan pending investigation. I'll move Cameron immediately. I'll ensure. You'll do all of that, Marcus agreed. And we're still going public. Because how many other children has she done this to? How many other parents were dismissed the way we were? This isn't just about Cameron anymore. This is about making sure Patricia Sullivan never has power over another child again. Within 2 hours, Mrs. Sullivan was removed from her classroom and placed on immediate administrative leave. Within 4 hours, the local news was calling. Someone, a sympathetic teacher who'd seen the video, had leaked it. Within 6 hours, teacher caught on hidden camera mistreating student was trending on social media. Within 12 hours, Patricia Sullivan's face was on every news channel in the state. The public reaction was swift and brutal. Parents came forward, dozens of them, with stories of their children, mostly black and Hispanic students, who'd been in Mrs. Sullivan's class over the years, who'd complained about her treatment, who'd been dismissed, ignored, told they were oversensitive. My daughter came home crying every day for a year, one mother said in a television interview, tears streaming down her face. She said Mrs. Sullivan told her she couldn't keep up, made her sit in the back, wouldn't let her participate. We complained to the school. They said she was a good teacher and our daughter just needed to try harder. Another parent. My son developed anxiety so severe he had to be homeschooled. He was 8 years old. 8! And he was having panic attacks about going to school because of how Mrs. Sullivan treated him. The pattern was undeniable. For over a decade, Patricia Sullivan had been systematically tormenting certain students, always the same demographic, always the most vulnerable, while administrators looked the other way. The school board called an emergency meeting. Superintendent Dr. Carol Henderson, a black woman in her 50s, stood before a packed auditorium of furious parents and a wall of news cameras. "We have failed these children," she said, her voice shaking with emotion. "We have failed to protect them. We have failed to listen to their parents. We have failed to investigate credible complaints. And we are deeply, profoundly sorry." She paused, gathering herself. Effective immediately, Patricia Sullivan has been terminated. The police are investigating potential criminal charges for child abuse. We are conducting a comprehensive review of every complaint filed against her over the past decade, and we are implementing new policies to ensure this never happens again. She looked directly at the cameras. To Cameron Mitchell and his family, we failed you. To every family that came to us with concerns that we dismissed, we failed you. We are committed to doing better, to being better, to protecting every child in our care. It was a good speech, heartfelt, sincere, but it didn't undo the damage. Cameron's new teacher was Mrs. Rosa Martinez, a warm Latina woman in her 40s with kind eyes and infinite patience. On Cameron's first day in her class, she knelt down to his level and said, "Cameron, I've heard you're a wonderful reader and you love dinosaurs. Would you like to share a book about dinosaurs with the class during reading time?" Cameron looked at her with suspicion, waited for the trap. "Really? Really? I'd love to hear you read." And for the first time in 8 months, Cameron smiled. But healing isn't linear. Cameron still had nightmares, still flinched when adults raised their voices, still needed reassurance that he was smart, that he was valued, that he belonged. Marcus and Lisa got him into therapy, a child psychologist who specialized in trauma. It took months, small steps, gentle progress. Slowly, so slowly, Cameron started to believe in himself again. 3 months after the video went public, Patricia Sullivan sat in a courtroom. She'd been charged with multiple counts of child abuse and creating a hostile educational environment. Her teaching license had been revoked, her reputation destroyed, her retirement benefits frozen pending the outcome of civil lawsuits from 17 different families. The Mitchells sat in the front row of the gallery. Cameron was not there. They'd agreed he didn't need to see this. But Marcus and Lisa needed to be there, needed to see justice delivered. Patricia Sullivan looked smaller than she had in the video. Older, broken. Her attorney had tried to argue that her actions were strict but not abusive, and that hidden cameras violated privacy laws. The judge, a black woman in her 60s named Judge Martina Thompson, shut that down immediately. Privacy laws protect individuals in spaces where they have a reasonable expectation of privacy. A public school classroom, where minor children are entrusted to your care, is not such a space. Furthermore, parents have a fundamental right to protect their children when institutional safeguards fail, which they clearly did in this case. She looked at Patricia Sullivan with undisguised contempt. Mrs. Sullivan, I reviewed the footage. All of it. I've read the testimony from former students and their families. I've examined a pattern of behavior spanning over a decade, and I am appalled. Patricia looked down at her hands. You were given a position of trust, Judge Thompson continued. You were responsible for shaping young minds, for nurturing potential, for creating a safe environment where children could learn and grow. And instead, you weaponized that trust. You used your authority to psychologically harm children who were too young and powerless to defend themselves. The courtroom was silent. The children you targeted were disproportionately black and Hispanic. From lower-income families, children whose parents' complaints you knew would be dismissed because you'd built a reputation as an excellent teacher with administrators who valued your tenure over children's well-being. Patricia's attorney tried to interject. Your Honor, there's no evidence of racial. There's overwhelming statistical evidence of bias in victim selection, Judge Thompson snapped. 17 families have come forward. 15 are families of color. That's not coincidence. That's pattern. She turned back to Patricia. You told a 7-year-old boy he would never understand the material. You tore up his work. You denied him lunch. You organized ritualized humiliation. You crushed his spirit systematically over 8 months. And when his parents complained, you gaslit them, made them think they were overreacting, that their child was a problem. Patricia was crying now. I never meant. You meant every word, Judge Thompson said coldly. This wasn't momentary anger or stress. This was calculated, repeated, intentional cruelty. You knew exactly what you were doing. She picked up her gavel. Patricia Sullivan, I hereby sentence you to 18 months in county jail, 5 years probation, mandatory psychological evaluation and treatment, community service working with child abuse prevention organizations, and permanent prohibition from working with children in any capacity. The gavel came down. Furthermore, I am awarding the Mitchell family full damages in their civil suit. $150,000 for emotional distress, therapy costs, and punitive damages. You will also personally write letters of apology to every family who has filed complaints against you over the past decade. Patricia collapsed in her chair. Her attorney looked stunned. This court is adjourned. Outside the courtroom, reporters swarmed Marcus and Lisa. How do you feel about the verdict? Marcus spoke carefully. Justice was served today. But justice doesn't undo the damage done to our son and so many other children. It doesn't erase the trauma. It doesn't give back the months of suffering. What do you want people to take away from this? Lisa stepped forward. Listen to children. Believe them when they tell you something is wrong. Don't dismiss parents' concerns because it's easier to trust authority figures. And for God's sake, don't wait until a parent has to hide a camera in a backpack to take abuse seriously. What's next for your family? Healing, Marcus said simply. Cameron is doing better. He's back to reading. Back to smiling. Back to being a kid. That's what matters. 6 months later, Cameron's therapy progress report was glowing. Cameron has made remarkable strides in rebuilding his self-esteem and trust in authority figures. He no longer exhibits signs of anxiety about school. He participates actively in class. His teacher reports is thriving academically and socially. With continued support, his prognosis is excellent. Mrs. Martinez had become more than a teacher. She'd become proof that adults could be trusted, that not everyone would hurt him. Mrs. Martinez says I'm her best reader, Cameron told his parents one evening, his eyes bright. She says I'm smart. Lisa hugged him tight, tears in her eyes. You are smart, baby. You always were. I know, Cameron said, and he meant it. That was the moment Marcus and Lisa knew their son was going to be okay. The fallout from the Sullivan case changed education policy across the state. Cameron's law was passed 8 months after the video went public. It mandated All classrooms must have functioning security cameras with audio, anonymous reporting systems for students and parents, independent investigation of all abuse complaints, mandatory training on trauma-informed teaching and implicit bias, zero tolerance for documented abuse, immediate removal, no administrative leave loopholes. 17 other states adopted similar legislation. The hidden camera that Lisa sewed into Cameron's backpack didn't just save one child. It saved thousands. 2 years after the verdict, Marcus and Lisa received a letter. It was from a mother in Oregon. Her daughter had shown the teacher the news story about Cameron. The teacher had been mistreating students, the same pattern, the same tactics. But seeing Cameron's story gave the mother courage. She installed a hidden camera, captured evidence, got her daughter moved to a new class, and the teacher fired. "Thank you," the letter said. "Thank you for being brave enough to go public, for fighting for your son. You saved my daughter. You saved so many children." Lisa cried when she read it. Marcus held her. "It was worth it," he said quietly. "Every minute of the fight, every horrible moment. It was worth it." Today, Cameron is 9 years old. He's in 4th grade. He loves science and wants to be a paleontologist. He still loves dinosaurs. He still sees his therapist occasionally. Still has moments where he needs reassurance. Still carries scars from what Patricia Sullivan did to him. But he's thriving. And when people ask him what he wants to be when he grows up, he says, "A teacher, but a good one. The kind who makes kids feel smart. The kind who helps instead of hurts." Because Cameron Mitchell learned something that most children shouldn't have to learn, that adults can be cruel, that authority can be abused, that sometimes the system fails to protect you. But he also learned something else, something more important, that his parents would fight for him, that justice, though delayed, could still arrive, that one camera, one moment of bravery, one family's refusal to stay silent could change everything. Patricia Sullivan served a full sentence. She's out now, living quietly in another state. She'll never teach again, never have power over children again. But the children she hurt, they carry those wounds forever. Some have healed, like Cameron. Some are still healing. And some may never fully recover. That's the real cost of abuse. That's what people like Patricia Sullivan don't understand or don't care about. They steal something from children that can never be fully returned. The belief that adults are safe, that teachers care, that the world is fair. But here's what I want you to understand from Cameron's story. If something is wrong, if your child is suffering, trust your instincts. Fight for them. Don't let anyone tell you you're overreacting or being oversensitive. Document everything. Get evidence if you have to. Go public if the system fails you. Because sometimes one hidden camera, one moment of proof, one family's courage can bring justice not just to one child, but to hundreds. The day that camera captured Patricia Sullivan's cruelty was a day everything changed. For Cameron, for 17 other families, for thousands of children who will never suffer what he suffered because laws changed. One camera, one family, one refusal to stay silent. That's how justice comes to a child. The lesson: believe children when they tell you something is wrong. Don't wait for perfect evidence to protect them. Trust your parental instincts over institutional authority. Document everything. Fight for your child with every resource you have. And know that sometimes, when the system fails, parents have to become the justice system themselves. One act of courage, one hidden camera, one refusal to accept it's just a misunderstanding, can save not just your child, but countless others. Never stop fighting for the voiceless. Never let anyone convince you that abuse is acceptable classroom management. And never, ever let authority figures gaslight you into doubting your child's reality.